Kung sino man gumawa ng speech niya, i-fire niya. To be very frank, bakit President Marcos Jr.? Precisely because pinagmukha kang elitista at pinagmukha kang elitistang presidente na nasa taas, nasa ivory tower at malayong-malayo ka sa mga normal at regular na Pilipino. Kasi ang pagbili ng suka sa sa tindahan, to be straightforward about this, is lahat ng Pilipino, kahit nga ako na nasa middle class, nagbibili ng suka sa tindahan, kahit maliit na tindahan, kapag nawawalan ka ng suka. It's a representation of regular Filipinos na yun ang ginagawa. Now, yung kanyang ginawang framing na yung kabilang partido or yung ibang kandidato na hindi nasa kanyang slate ay parang bumili lang ng suka is a very demeaning. Very demeaning yan sa mga kumakandidato na hindi nasa slate nila, at demeaning siya with reference to regular Filipinos who are not elite. And there's only 1% of our population are on top na elite talaga, na hindi bumibili ng suka sa tindahan dahil may maroon silang mga butlers or may mga yaya sila na bumibili, at hindi sila bumibili sa maliliit na tindahan at bumibili sila sa mga social na grocery. Yun yung yun yung optics dyan kung i-analyze mo at i-content analyze mo, content analysis ang gagawin mo sa statement ni President Marcos Jr. So, parang sinabi mo na, we're the elites, sila, mga mababang tao at mababang klaseng tao. O, gano'n naman talaga ang implication yon. Sinasabi niya, kami magagaling, kami ma-elitista, kami ang mga the best. Sila, wala yan. Kasi parang bumibili lang na ng suka yan sa tindahan. So parang dinimin mo. Hindi niya naintindihan na the base of the Philippines is a masa. At lahat ng tao may ganong klaseng ginagawa every day. Problema sa mga tulad ni Tarela is sweeping kung magsalita. Naturingang spokesperson ng South China Sea sa Tarela, pero hindi niya dinidiinan ang distinction ng tinatawag mong international level at domestic jurisdiction. Dapat alam niya to, spokesperson siya, my God. Ano ba? Spokesperson ka, dapat naglilinaw ka ng issue. Ganun yun dapat. Hindi yung sweeping ang mga statement mo as if like internationally recognized, legally binding. Come on, give me a break. We're not stupid people here.
Geopolitical analyst, Prof. Maupay na gabi, Admar Vilando kasama si Franco Baranda.
Magandang gabi, Prof.
Hello, Admar at saka Franco. Maraming salamat sa pag-imbita nyo sa akin dito. Narinig ba ako ng mabuti?
Opo, malinaw po kayo. Prof, unahin ko lang po muna itong ginamit po sa isang political rally, ang issue po dito sa China or sa West Philippine Sea, South China Sea. Ano pong masasabi nyo rito? Dahil pumalag na rin po ang China ukol dito. Ano bang take? Dapat bang isama sa usaping politikal? O usaping politikal ba itong patungkol dyan sa South China Sea?
Sa akin naman kasi nabasa ko rin yung statement ng China, I think through the foreign ministry nila. At yun nga, pumapalag sila, sinasabi nilang ito ay political manipulation kasi nga oras ng kampanya at saka nasa midterm election tayo, nagsisimula na. At nandun tayo, yung mga senatorial ngayon ang umiikot at nagkakaroon ng mga proclamation rally. Ganito naman sa akin ang tingin ko dyan. I don't have anything against kung pag-uusapan sa election na to, lalo na sa mga debate, ang issue ng South China Sea. Kasi it's a legitimate issue. It's a foreign policy issue. Na kung saan, kapag tumatakbo kang senador or even Congress, mayroon ka kasi mga Committee on Foreign Affairs na kung saan relevant ang issue ng South China Sea because it's a regional and at the same time it's a foreign policy issue. Ngunit, ang hindi ko lang, ang feeling ko medyo off at medyo parang hindi okay is you use the issue as in a manipulative way just to exude some kind of nationalist sentiment na hindi naman nalatag ng mabuti ang issue dahil nga kampanya yan. Ang usually sa mga kampanya, sa mga sorties, sa mga rally, sound bites lang. Alam mo yun, just for you to have that appeal to the massa at saka sa mga Pilipino. Pero ang mahirap doon, hindi naman naiintindihan talaga ng karamihan ng Pilipino ang intricacies and complexities of the South China Sea issue. At ang mahirap pa doon sa proclamation rally ng senatorial slate ni Pangulong Marcos Jr., parang nagkaroon pa siya ng distinction saying na ang kanyang partido at ang mga tumatakbong senador sa ilalim ng kanyang alyansa hindi pro-China, at yung mga nasa kabila, which is I think he was referring to the PDP Laban na kung saan ang chairman is the Duterte, ay pro-Duterte. That's a very sweeping conclusion and a very sweeping kind of it's like an alleged accusation saying that those people running for PDP Laban, under the PDP Laban, are pro-China, which is not really true. Kasi ang usapin nito, kasi alam mo, ito yung mahirap Ang usapin ng South China Sea, it's not an usapin about China o pro-China, anti-China. It's because at the end of the day, ang dapat nating bigyan ng pansin dyan is paano mo ipapaintindi sa voters ang issue. At paano tayo tatayo sa issue na yan na kung saan hindi nasisira ang ating relasyon not just with China but with the rest of the ASEAN region and even of the Asia Pacific. Yun At paano ka babalanse sa mga nangyayari geopolitical na nangyayari sa Asia Pacific. Ganun siya dapat. It should be an educational kind of way of presenting the issue. Not in a way na ginagamit mo yung issue just para lang alam mo yun, siraan yung kabilang partido na kung saan katunggali mo sa election na to. Which very obvious naman, ang pinatatamaan ni Bongbong Marcos was actually the PDP Laban at si former President Rodrigo Duterte. But for me, that's a very sweeping statement without even some kind of justification. It doesn't mean that you're a friend to China or yung gobyerno ni President Duterte nung panahon niya has that kind of independent foreign policy, very balanced and neutral, but yet a friend of China to a greater extent or friendly to China, which we benefited economically, is pro-China ka na. You can be a friend of another country like China, the United States, but still at the end of the day, you would still be pro-Philippines. Walang problema doon. Pero the way Bongbong Marcos frame it is as if like kami pro-Philippines or kami anti-China, sila pro-China. Ganon ang kanyang optics Actually, it's not even pro-Philippines. It's really an optics of we are anti-China, they are pro-China. That is wrong way of framing it, really, to be very frank.
Kasi nakikita nyo rin po ba na makakaapekto ito ng lubusan sa ating ekonomiya? Kasi meron ng ganong naratibo at galing pa ito mismo sa bibig ng ating Pangalawang Pangulo. At Pangulo pala natin, hindi pala Pangalawang Pangulo, mga Pangulo natin. Nakikita naman natin ng China, isa sa mga partner ng Pilipinas, marami tayong mga inaangkat mula sa China. At kung ganyan ang naratibo, baka isipin ng China na, pwede na pala ito sila maging independent, tingnan natin. Pwede ba nating masabing ganyan, Prof?
Actually, to be very honest with you, Admar, ngayon ko lang nakita na nag-react ang China pagdating sa naratibo ng anti-China during election. Kasi usually, ilang election na rin ako nag-observe, usually they let it slide Parang okay lang, hindi na nila pinapansin. But this time around, I think pinansin nila at nagkaroon sila ng reaction and statement. I think it's because of the fact that it was the president who said these things. And I think as a president, you should not say that. It's so unbecoming of a president to even compromise your foreign relation with another country by saying na ang mga kandidato under my slate is not pro-China because you're actually communicating to China that I am anti-China. Yun yung implication ng statement ni BBM dun sa rally na yun, which is I was like a bit para ako nahulog sa bangko ko kasi bakit, oh my God, you are supposed to be the president of the country and you have to be very careful when you talk about these things because it will impact the country, not necessarily economically but even our international standing and our relation with a country like China, which is now the first economy, the largest economy in the world actually kasi mas mataas na ang kanilang GDP kaysa sa United States. Actually, there was an article in the New York Times na sinasabi nga na nalampasan na nga ng China ang United States. So, yun yung medyo na-off ako ng konti kasi you're supposed to be the president of the country. Kahit rally yan, whatever you say would reflect on the country's position, especially when it comes to foreign policy. Dapat maingat siya doon. Pero it was so unbecoming as far as I'm concerned. Sana hindi na lang niya na-mention ng ganun. Pero alam naman natin yung optics, John, gusto niya iparating sa mga boboto na, oy, kami ang iboto niyo dahil kami anti-China kami. Kasi ganun talaga ang optics, anti-China, pro-China. Parang ganun ang ginawa niya. When in fact, dapat hindi ganun. On the other hand, how it will impact? Yes, of course, it will impact. Lalo lang pinaiinit yung challenging diplomatic relation ng dalawang bansa. At saka syempre, kung mag-retaliate ang China, they can flex their muscle. And how they gonna flex it? Hindi naman military and defense yan eh. Usually, it's economic. And actually, right now, nagsasuffer naman talaga na ang economic na, in terms of investment and capital man yan, projects, or even tourism, ang Pilipinas naman affected na eh, economically speaking. Pero, kung patuloy na tayong ganito, siguro mas lalo pang maapektuhan tayo na economically. At alam naman natin that we cannot deny and we cannot ignore that China really is a big country. Mas lalo na when you talk about economy. Every country in the world are trying to be at the good side of China. But it's so, parang napaka-stupid on our side not to even think about that. Really. At saka ginamit mo pang optics sa kampanya, dapat hindi na. Probably other people can do that. Yung mga kumakandidato, I would understand. But coming from a president, that was really, for me, unbecoming. Kasi you're the president eh. This kind of issues are foreign policy issues. These are sensitive issues. And you have to be careful what you say in public. Even if nagpakampanya ka for your senatorial slate. For me, it should not have been like that. O, ganun ang tingin ko.
Opo, at alam naman natin na itong administrasyong ito, yung mga mambabatas ay talagang aligned sa present administration. And nakikita niyo po ba na yung ganong klase ng pronouncement ay makakaresolba dito sa issue dyan sa South China Sea, sa West Philippine Sea? Kasi nga, sa kasalukuyan nga, tuloy-tuloy pa rin, wala silang magawa. Wala silang, kumbaga, nandun lang yung Typhoon missile na sinasabi nila, na isa sa pamamaraan pa nila, nagkaroon pa nga sila ng kondisyones, no, na ibabalik ang Typhoon missile system nila, if ever na alisin yung mga hindi na magigipit. Pero yun lang, ang nakikita natin na parang yun yung nakikitang hakbang nila para hindi na maging intense ang ginagawa ng China. Pero other than that, tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang ginagawa ng China. Hindi nila mapigilan. And yun pa ang kanyang nabanggit. So, tingin mo makakaresolba ito ng lubusan sa sigalot dyan sa South China Sea, West Philippine Sea?
No, definitely not. Kasi parang ang ginagawa ni BBM nang iinis siya lalo sa China eh. Iniinis niya. Yun nga hindi ko maintindihan. You're supposed to be the president of the country. You're supposed to have this kind of strategic mind na ano mo, yung tulad ng China, may gitgitan ka sa South China Sea. Imbis na dalhin mo yung issue in a way na nasa proper venue, nasa proper forum, ginamit pa niya sa kampanya. I think it would aggravate more yung medyo hindi magandang relasyon ng Philippines and China at the moment under BBM's administration, at lalo pang nagkakaroon ng alam mo yun, lalo pang nagiging mainit ang sitwasyon. Pero yun na nga yung problema sa Pilipinas they will definitely use the South China Sea issue in this campaign, in this midterm election. Lalo na ang senatorial slate at saka yung alyansa na nabuo ni BBM ngayong eleksyon para sa kanyang mga kandidato. Kasi feeling nila, kapag sinabi mong anti-China kami, tapos pro-China sila, ang mga Pilipino boboto na sa lahat ng kandidato nila. I really hope the Filipino people would study the issue more and make it, study the issue deeply. Kasi ang issue ng South China Sea, very intricate yan, very complex. There's a lot of things that many Filipinos, they don't understand. So, ang ko lang, sayang, naging bakya you know what I mean? Parang you're supposed to you elevate the discourse into something na medyo educational, but even him as the president, parang binaba niya lalo ang diskurso na dapat tinataas mo So, bumaba siya sa level na parang, oops, lumang klase yan. Parang ganun ang reaction ko eh. So sa akin, I don't think it will really promote good relation between the country. Nang iinis siya, si BBM, and at the same time, ang optics niya ay totally hindi maganda. Kasi parang ang ginawa niya, PDP, ang kampo ni Digong, pro-China, kami anti-China. When in fact, as the government, you never do that. Because pag sinabi mong anti-China, you already made a proclamation or like a subtle statement that China is your enemy. Your government, its enemy is China. If you do that, it's a subtle way of saying it. That is the way I see it. So parang it should not be like that. Kasi hindi dapat ganon ang tayo ng Pilipinas. Mayroon man tayong gitgitan sa South China Sea as a country, may dispute tayo, pero we have to manage it in a way na medyo proper at medyo diplomatic. Hindi ganyan.
Correct.
So yun yung tingin ko.
Yes, you think, Prof, na ever since naman talaga the admins putting China into the bad light, which is somehow, you think this could influence or this could be a useful tool for the BBM slate to at least somehow influence some Filipinos because alam naman natin, not everyone really understand about the disputed territory. You think like, if you ask like, yung mga pangkaraniwan na mga kababayan natin, when you talk about China, most of them like understand na, ito sinasakop ang ating territory. Do you think somehow this is a useful tool for them to at least get some for their slate?
I think in some ways it's a tool that they can use to rally Filipinos to vote for their candidates. It is, and it has been used since before previous elections. Pero manipulative way of doing it, which is not good. Kasi supposedly naman, ano ba yan? Nang babaw naman ang diskurso ng mga kandidato nila kung hanggang dyan lang, di ba? So dapat siguro ang PDP laban, ang mga kandidato ni Digong, itaas nila yung level of discourse at hindi ganyang kababaw. Kasi nakakahiya naman, kakandidato sila for senators, kapag nanalo sila bilang senator, hanggang ganyan lang ang diskurso nila. My God, nakakahiya tayo as a country if that's the case. So I really hope na hindi bababa sa ganung level ang PDP laban at ang mga kandidato ni Digong na you reduce the South China Sea issue as if it is an issue between pro-China and anti-China, which is wrong. It's not about that. It's really about the dispute that is complex. There are a lot of claimant states and it's supposed to be not framed between China and the Philippines alone.
Correct.
There are all other claimant states including Malaysia, Vietnam na very active din sa South China Sea issue. So ganun siya, pero definitely tagto Franco, they will exploit the issue in a manipulative way, thinking na kapag ginamit nila ito during election, magkakaroon sila ng, they will be rallying votes to their side. Parang ganon. Pero for me, nakaka-turn off siya, to be very frank. So ako, kung ganyan sila, I would rather not vote for them.
How about, I think PDP Laban already started it when Kong Marcoleta corrected about the Tariela statement na legally recognized. Parang yun na yung umpisa, at least. Yeah, yun na yung umpisa na kung saan, at least, to educate every Filipino that about the West Philippine Sea issue. To tell them that this was just recognized within our jurisdiction only. Nothing more.
True. Yes, that is really true, Franco. I think mga tulad ni Kong Marcoleta, kakampanya ko na kasi ito matalino. Boto niyo yan, mga kabansa. Yan talaga yung mga dapat nating ilagay sa Senado kasi may alam. At hindi ginagamit yung issue para lang mag-manipulate ng way of thinking ng mga tao. Ang WPS, kahit ipako niyo sa krus ang mga nagsasabi nito, ganito yan. Ang WPS is a term na kinoin during the time of President Benigno Aquino through an executive order number 29. During 2012, na itong WPS, ito yung tinatawag niyang pangalan doon sa exclusive economic zone na we are claiming as part of our exclusive economic zone. Lilinawin ko, exclusive economic zone yan, hindi territory. And that's within UNCLOS. Yun yung laman ng tinatawag mong Executive Order number 29. Ano yung term na yun? West Philippine Sea. In a way, because it's an executive order, within the jurisdiction of the Philippines, the government, especially the political establishment and the government institution, especially the foreign affairs, would use the term WPS or West Philippine Sea. But to put it at the international level, in terms of global recognition, international recognition, even countries, claimant states in the South China Sea like China, Vietnam, Malaysia, and others, they don't recognize it. Okay? So, yun ang totoo. Okay? Sa lahat ng mapa na mundo na international recognized map, there's no such thing as WPS. That is really the fact of the matter. Hindi ko sinasabi na sa Pilipinas hindi siya recognized. Yung sinasabi nga natin, within the jurisdiction of the Philippines, may tinatawag kang WPS because tayo ang nag-invent niyan eh. Tayo ang naggawa ng executive order. Pero pag lumabas ka na ng Pilipinas, it's not recognized. It's not recognized at all. And it's not legally binding as well. So that is also a fact. So dapat makita natin ang difference ng domestic legislation and international legislation as far as international law is concerned. So yun yung distinction at yun ang ipinapaliwanag ni Kong Marcoleta na as far as international community is concerned, there's no such thing as West Philippine Sea. But as far as jurisdiction within our EEZ and inside the country, based on the Executive Order 29, Filipinos or even the political establishment of the country, they call that area where we claim as part of our exclusive economic zone as the West Philippine Sea. Malinaw yun. Ang problema sa mga tulad ni Tarela is sweeping kung magsalita. Naturingang spokesperson ng South China Sea sa Tarela pero hindi niya dinidiinan ang distinction ng tinatawag mong international level at domestic jurisdiction. Dapat alam niya to, spokesperson siya, my God. Oh, ano ba? Spokesperson ka, dapat naglilinaw ka ng issue. Ganun yun dapat. Hindi yung sweeping ang mga statement mo as if like internationally recognized, legally binding. Come on, give me a break. We're not stupid people here. I'm not denying that there is an Executive Order 29. That's why it's being called West Philippine Sea by the Philippine government because it's applicable within the jurisdiction of the country. But outside of the country, it's not recognized. And even if you look at the International Hydrographic Organization or IHO, walang ganon. Review nyo lahat ng mapa na internationally recognized, walang nakalagay doon na West Philippine Sea. Pero sa atin, we all know na mayroon tayong West Philippine Sea as far as Executive Order number 29 is concerned. Yun yung malinaw doon. So, yun yung issue. At nilinaw naman ni Kong Marcoleta yan. So, kaya nga mga kababayan, ang mga taong dapat nung tignan na iboboto nyo, yung nag-i-explain ng matino at educational ang dating at hindi sweeping yung mga statement na parang binibilog yung utak nyo at ginagawa kayong bobo.
Paano po ba ma-recognize, ma'am? Kasi ang nabanggit niya, and I quote, how will the world's support our use of the term WPS if we ourselves undermine it? And maliban dito, yung Administrative Order, Executive Order 29, 2012 pa pala ito inilabas. Noon bang lumapit tayo sa tribunal, West Philippine Sea ang gamit natin?
Yes. No. It's like this. The tribunal and even the arbitral ruling ng 2016, the whole proceedings and even the decision na pinagmamalaki nga nitong gobyerno natin na China is rejecting it, ang ginamit doon is South China Sea. Hindi gumamit ng West Philippine Sea. Kahit i-review pa ni Tarela yan, makikita niya na ang sinasabi ko totoo. Walang ginamit na WPS doon. Ang ginamit South China Sea precisely because the word South China Sea is more neutral and more recognized internationally. Pag ginamit mo kasi ang West Philippine Sea, then it would become a geopolitically charged term. Kasi ano yan Pilipinas ang gumagamit niyan. So mahirap yun. And you're in the international, you're in a tribunal Ang treatment mo, international to a greater extent.
Prof, yung
so ang ginamit ng tribunal, South China Sea.
Yung side po ba natin, sa Philippine side, noong lumapit tayo sa tribunal, ang gamit ba natin sa lahat ng mga paliwanag doon ay West Philippine Sea?
Yun ang hindi ko alam. Basta ang alam ko, ang tribunal and in the ruling, South China Sea. I would presume, since panahon ni President Benigno Aquino Jr., the third yan, and sa kanya nanggaling, sa kanyang administrasyon nanggaling ang West Philippine Sea, probably they use the term West Philippine Sea in their some kind of statement and yung mga pleadings na sinasubmit mo dun sa tribunal. Pero as far as the tribunal is concerned, they use the term South China Sea and not the WPS.
Pero paano po,
Yun yung
paano po kikilalanin, kasi nga sabi niya dito na paano daw susuportahan ng buong mundo ang termino natin na West Philippine Sea kung hindi natin gagamitin ito dito sa ating bansa. Ano po ba yung ma'am? Meron po bang patakaran ukol dyan bago kilalanin ng buong mundo? Sa pamamagitan ba ng always na paggamit natin ng West Philippine Sea, tayo lang gumagamit ng West Philippine Sea, ay maitatatak na yan sa buong mundo?
No, that is not true. Na gagamitin mo ang word na West Philippine Sea, tapos sasabihin mo buong mundo maniniwala na may West Philippine Sea. That's so stupid, to be very frank. Ang ano kasi dyan, ilalabi mo siya. Pwede kang lumapit sa International Hydrographic Organization na ito yun. However, mahirap ang South China Sea kasi nga sabi ko nga, ang South China Sea issue, very complicated na issue yan. Mayroon kang China, mayroon kang Malaysia, may Brunei ka, may Vietnam ka, andyan pa yung island of Taiwan, which is a province of China, na nagkiklaim din. Sila, may sarili-sarili lang pangalan dyan sa area na kiniklaim nila. Okay, sila din pero domestic nga ang jurisdiction niya. I mean, within domestic nila. So, hindi mo ma-assert ang West Philippine Sea even among claimant states because the moment tanggapin nila yan, that's already an indication that they are surrendering their claim. Na may overlapping claim Kaya mahirap ang usapin ng South China Sea. Kaya nga ang tribunal, para maiwasan na magkaroon ng kulay, they use the word South China Sea because it's internationally recognized. Na yung area na yan, ang tawag dyan is South China Sea, even before kopong-kopong pa. So yun. So tayo, pwede naman natin i-assert yan, pero I'm telling you, that would be very, very difficult. There will be opposition to it. Precisely because the area is disputed. And the dispute is overlapping with different claimant states na mahirap pa kasi komplikado siya. Ang iba, they claim territory, sovereignty. Yung iba naman tayo tulad sa atin, exclusive economic zone based on UNCLOS. So, even the claims itself are very complicated kasi may mga reference point nag-iba-iba. Territory yung iba, sovereignty yung iba, EEZ. Magkaiba yung territory at saka sovereignty and EEZ. Kasi ito, sovereign rights lang. Ito, soberenya ang pinag-uusapan. Ibig sabihin, pag-aari nila. Like Vietnam and China, they claim some parts of the South China Sea as their territory. Ang atin is exclusive economic zone. So, alam mo yon, if this term na WPS would be pushed to be recognized internationally, that would be very difficult. And I tell you, no one will agree to it. Precisely because the area is disputed. Yun yung kaya nga disputed siya, kaya nga mahirap, kaya nga komplikado kasi it's disputed. May gulo pa dyan, hindi pa yan settled. It can only be done kung masisettle siya. Ang problema, I don't even see in my lifetime or even in my children's lifetime na masisettle yan kasi magulo yan. Siguro, probably in 50 years to 100 years from now, siguro wala nang issue ng South China Sea because probably ASEAN will be one parang EU na ang dating. Parang European Union ang dating. Mawawalan ng issue ang South China Sea kasi it would be treated as a common area within ASEAN. Kung ang ASEAN will be like EU, European Union, na may supranational entity ka. Pero it's not like that. Hindi pa tayo nandun So yung sinasabi ko, pwede naman. Pero ang tanong, do you really think it will be accepted by other countries? And do you really think other countries will accept it internationally just by talking about it? That will not happen. And that's a very futile exercise as far as the Philippines is concerned. So yun ang sinasabi ko. Kasi nga, bottom line, the area is disputed by many claimant states, including China and the Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, even the island of Taiwan, and even Vietnam. So, sila, mayroon din silang pangalan dyan kung anong tawag nila sa kiniklaim nilang area na ginagamitan nila ng sarili nilang lingwahe. So, pero yung applicability ng lingwahe na yun is within their jurisdiction kasi nga, disputed nga yung area. So, yun yung malinaw doon. So, yun yung sagot ko sa tanong mo.
Sino po ba ang Estados Unidos pa po ba ang patuloy na nagkukumpas sa kasalukuyang administrasyon ng US? Sa tingin niyo po, dito sa kasalukuyang administrasyon po natin? Kasi alam natin, medyo iba na ang galaw, mga polisiya ni Trump dito nga sa usaping geopolitical, kumpara doon sa nauna, pinalitan niya na si Biden, which is yung Biden, dun humuhugot ang Marcos administration. Nananatili pa ba ito or ito na yung kanyang nakuha mula sa nakalipas na administrasyon, pinagpatuloy lang po ng ni Marcos?
I think under a Trump presidency, there will be changes. I mean, changes in a sense na, though ako, ang tingin ko, ang pagiging natin, treaty ally, like military ally with the United States will remain kasi andyan ang MDT. I don't think even Trump na tatanggalin niya yung MDT. I don't think so. However, it will change in some ways kasi si Trump, may mga palisiya siya na sobrang iba during the Biden administration, and I think the Bongbong Marcos administration will be affected. Like for example, ang latest na news, may freezing ng US aid funds. Apektado ang Pilipinas kasi may mga projects sa atang gobyerno, even the DFA and even some NGOs na funded by US aid. Now kung ang US aid is freezing yung budget mo, apektado ang Pilipinas. So makikita mo may mga feeling ko at ang tingin ko ang basa ko ngayon nagsisimula na, I think the current Marcos administration magkakaroon siya ng mga challenges with the Trump 2.0 Trump administration. Kasi may mga policies si Trump na medyo hindi inaasahan ni Bongbong Marcos, and at the same time, masyadong malayo and deviated siya sa Biden administration. May isang bago ngayon na news from Bloomberg kanina na shinare ko rin actually sa social media ko, na sinasabi nga, may isang advisor, undersecretary, si Professor John Andrew Byers, history professor, deputy assistant secretary of defense ni Trump sa area ng South and Southeast Asia. Ang proposal niya is for the United States under Trump to withdraw karamihan ng mga military assets and military deployments in terms of troops, in terms of armaments, and military assets ng United States na malapit sa coast ng China or nandyan sa South China Sea area. I-withdraw yon, magkaroon sila ng negotiation with China na, China will have a few patrol boats na Coast Guard dyan para bumaba ang tension ng South China Sea at yung area na yan at mas magkaroon ng peaceful coexistence ang area ng South China Sea between China and the United States. At ang tawag diyan is cold peace. Cold peace meaning maiiwasan mo ang direct confrontation between the two superpowers, China and the United States. They can talk and they can cooperate, though they are not too friendly because they have differences and they have also competition when you talk about the economics and trade. However, when you talk about military, de-escalated siya. Yun yung proposal nitong history professor na to, na currently deputy assistant ni Trump sa South and Southeast Asia. So ngayon, kapag tinanggap ni Trump ang ganyang klaseng policy at magiging part ng kanyang foreign policy in the Asia-Pacific region, kasi ang South at Southeast Asia are part ng Asia-Pacific, then Bongbong Marcos will have a problem. Because ibig sabihin, the military and defense support during the time of Biden will be de-escalated really dramatically speaking, and at the same time, yung military at saka defense ng United States na nandyan sa South China Sea, na kung saan yun ang pinagmamalaki ni na Bongbong na, alam mo yun, na we have the big brother here. So China, kaya nyo ba kanya ganyan? Mga porma-porma na, Diyos ko Lord, hindi naman, temporary lang yan. Pag nagkataon, nangyari yan, apektado si Bongbong Marcos. Because what would he do if that happens? So kaya ngayon, Bongbong Marcos is actually trying to have a conversation with the state secretary under Trump, yung mga hawkish. Kasi sa Trump administration, you have to understand that Trump is one person, pero sa kanyang kabinete, meron siyang mga mga important position, naka-occupy sa important position na medyo ang stand with reference to China ay medyo hawkish siya at medyo anti-China talaga. So nandyan din yon sila. Like for example, yung kanyang security advisor, si Waltz, Secretary of State, si Rubio, ang Defense Secretary, at saka yung advisor ni Trump, some of them or most of them are hawkish against China or anti-China to a greater extent. So ngayon, ang ginagawa nitong Marcos administration, they're trying to connect with these people na nasa kabinete ni Trump to influence na i-continue kung ano ang existing na relationship defense and military wise with the United States na kasing quote unquote ironclad nung panahon ni Biden. But the problem is Trump does not think that way. Hindi ganon si Trump kasi nga I think from my reading Trump wants to be known as the US president who actually facilitated peace across the globe. Good, feeling ko ganun ang gusto niya na pagkatapos ng presidency niya, like for example ngayon, or kung magkaroon pa siya ng re-election, kung possible pa, after 4 years and then another 4 years, I think he wants to leave a legacy na I was the president of the United States who actually stopped the war in Ukraine,
Opo.
made the South China Sea peaceful to a greater extent. Feeling ko ganun ang gusto niya mangyari sa kanyang legacy. However, you have to be very Admar and Franco, you have also to be very very practical and pragmatic to see politics kasi you have other people around Trump who probably would not have the same kind of perspective. Pero meron ka rin mga tao tulad nung professor na yon na si John Andrew na siya yung tinatawag mong peacemonger. Ang iba warmonger pero siya peacemonger. So mayroon kang mga ganong klaseng tao na nasa paligid ni Trump. Pero at the end of the day, he is the president of the United States.
Opo.
He will make the decision. So ganon ang tingin ko.
Opo, at ito yung kaibahan sa kasalukuyang administrasyon dyan po sa Estados Unidos sa Marcos administration kasi ang Marcos administration lalo na nung nabanggit niya yung patungkol doon sa China na nagbigay talaga ng na parang nagkakaroon siya gumagawa siya ng division. Pero dito, kay President Donald Trump, ang pinaka-latest ngayon, tinawagan niya ang dalawang magkatunggaling presidente ng Ukraine at Russia recently. At dito sa Truth Social na social media ni President Donald Trump, nabanggit niya dito na una niyang tinawagan si President Vladimir Putin ng Russia na pag-usapan nila patungkol unang-una, Ukraine, sa Middle East, energy, artificial intelligence, kapangyarihan ng dollar at iba pa, no? And after nitong post na ito, after ng ilang oras, nakausap na naman niya si President Volodymyr Zelensky ng Ukraine at napag-usapan nila ang patungkol sa kapayapaan, matigil na ang giyera. At meron silang contingent na papadala doon ang Amerika both sa Russia at dito nga po may delegasyon na ipapadala. Magkakaroon sila ng meeting para sa makakausap yung liderato ng Russia at ng Ukraine. Ang pinag-uusapan na dito is una, kapayapaan at syempre paano lumago ang kanilang mga ekonomiya. Ito'y kabalintunaan sa nangyayari ngayon dito sa Pilipinas na naghahamon pa tayo na parang kumbaga parang iniinis pa natin yung malaki pang bansa na hindi naman talaga natin din kaya, Prof.
Yun na nga, kaya nga dapat itong si BBM, kung matalino siya, he should be looking at the steps na tinatahak ni Trump. Kasi baka mamaya pag sila nag-usap, mapahiya siya dahil iba yung iniisip ni Trump at iba yung gusto ni Trump na maging foreign policy niya when you talk about the South China and even the Asia Pacific. So ito namang nangyari ngayon, it's a very, very good and very, very positive and welcome development na nag-usap ang dalawang presidente ng malalaking bansa. Take notes, Russia is a military superpower. Mas maraming mas maraming military assets, especially when you talk about nuclear heads, even compared to China actually. at par yan with the United States when you talk about nuclear weapons. So, kaya nag-usap sila sa telepono. I think the discussion was a very productive. At saka yung isa sa pinaka-importante is yung transition to a peace negotiation in Ukraine, na kung saan mayroon na actually nabuo na committee or nabuong grupo sa part ng US administration ni Trump na kung saan makikipag-usap sa Russia to formally start the peace negotiation. Ngayon, ang hindi lang natin alam if Ukraine will be directly involved in it. Kasi nung tinanong si President Trump, ang Ukraine ba may involved sa peace negotiation, hindi niya sinagot directly. Basta sabi lang niya, peace is important in Ukraine because marami nang namamatay and it's not good for their economy and even for their country. So we need to have that peace. But I think there is a very good rapport and relation na nabubuo between Putin and Trump. And I think also Trump and Putin is capitalizing on their previous relationship nung Trump 1.0 administration. Kasi ngayon 2.0. Nung before, kasi kung titignan mo, actually Trump had a good relation. I'm not saying perfect relation with Putin previously, but actually they really have a very good constructive relationship nung time na yon. So ngayon, I think Trump and Putin are capitalizing on that good relation before na pag-usapan ang mga critical issues na geopolitical in nature and international relation issues na kung saan both country mayroon silang stake at interest. And one of that would be Ukraine, the other is the Middle East. Kasi if you look at the Middle East, of course, ang United States, they have a stake in the Middle East, pero ang Russia din, they have a lot of stake in the Middle East. Lalo na when you talk about yung 'di ba? May mga countries diyan na very close to Russia pero kaaway ng United States. May marami diyan sa United States. So pinag-uusapan nila, especially Iran, pinag-uusapan nila kung paano sila magko-cooperate to be able to maintain peace in the Middle East and even in Ukraine. So this is a very good positive development. At saka one thing pa, in-invite ni President Putin si Trump to visit Russia. And even Trump is expecting that they will see face to face in Saudi Arabia ni Putin. So you can see that the two military powers president, maganda yung rapport. And I think, ito rin ang reading ko, I think Trump, though there's a seemingly trade war between China and the United States, kasi economic to, mas economic yan. Pero I think President Xi and also Trump, to a greater extent, because these are very pragmatic people, very mature, very pragmatic na mga presidente ng malalaking bansa, na superpowers ng mga bansa, they may have competition in terms of economic and trade, but I think when it comes to defense and military, President Xi and even President Trump will have to a certain extent meeting of the minds. I think that's my reading too. So you see, this is really a deviation from the Biden administration. Kasi ngayon nakikita mo, Putin and President Xi are being perceived as adversary by the previous Biden administration, but Trump is very transactional. Maybe they see these two as competitors, but he also, I think President Trump is also seeing Putin and President Xi as good partners in many respects, in different fields, even in economic. So may mga makikita kang gitgitan dyan along the way, pero I think bottom line, may mga cooperation na mabubuo dyan. Pero ang tanong ganito, paano si Bongbong Marcos amidst all of this development na I think may mga nabubuong magandang relationship between China and the United States on many respects, at the same time Russia and the United States on many respects, when in fact when you talk about the Typhoon missile system, Russia and China nagre-react dyan, ayaw nila dyan at gusto nilang tanggalin yan sa Pilipinas. Tapos ginagamit na leverage naman ni BBM ang Typhoon missile system. Sinasabi na sa China na, ibabalik ko ang Typhoon missile system sa United States kapag sundin mo ang gusto ko. Parang, hello, you don't even have the leverage Sorry, Mr. President, because it's not even yours. It's not even ours. The Taiwan missile system is not ours. It's the United States property. So, sila lang ang makakapagsabi kung anong gusto nilang gawin yon. So, you cannot use it really as a leverage. Even if you use it as a leverage, when you talk about military capacity of China, we're not at par at them. Malayong-malayo tayo dyan. So, parang it's a very futile exercise for BBM to even use it as a leverage against China. Medyo pagtatawanan ka sa international level kung ganyan ang pag-asta mo. Kasi karamihan ng leaders sa mundo, lalo na sa malalaking bansa, alam nila kung anong meron sila at alam nila kung anong wala tayo. Yun yung sinasabi ko.
Yes, how about Prof, you think kasi ever since alam naman natin like how the growth pagdating ng ekonomiya sa Amerika, like one of the resources that they have is the military-industrial complex ever since. You know, including the CIA, because that's what they do. They have been planting CIAs to different countries to create chaos. So, do you think this will also affect? Because they have been used to that kind of system, the Congress, the Senate, like the whole...
Nililinis na ni Trump yan. At this moment, Trump is actually it's already in the, hindi ko sinasabi na magagawa niya or magiging successful. At this time, it's very premature to make a conclusion or a total assessment of all of this. But what I know is President Trump is already starting cleaning up. Even like for example, 'di ba? Nakita nyo NED, the National Endowment for Democracy, which is a front organization of CIA. Diyan china-channel ang mga funds at mga kung ano naman ginagawa ng CIA sa iba't ibang bansa. Yan ang bibigyan ng pondo kasi justified yan kasi civil society ko no. Ngayon tignan mo, President Trump is already starting cleaning up and trying to check na, hindi ito, i-freeze mo yan kasi walang kwenta yan, puro lang nagsasayang tayo ng pera, ganyan. So, may ganun siyang mga movements na ginagawa and I think it's part of the whole thing. And also, if you look at right now, may bago siyang inappoint na head ng lahat ng intelligence forces at security forces ng United States na babae na siya ang nasa taas ng CIA at iba pang mga intelligence network and agency ng United States na kung saan very progressive mag-isip, hindi warmonger. Siya, babae na medyo matalino at alam niya kung paano ipoposisyon at paano gagamitin ang kanilang intelligence resources and and all of this capacity. I think in a way na hindi katulad ng ginagawa ng usual America.
That was true.
But of course, pero ganito yun, Franco, no? These are developments and they are at a very early stage. Napaka-early ng stage para sa hindi pa ata nagwa 1 month si President Trump So, along the way, it may change, there will be changes, or it may continue to be like that. Pero hindi natin alam kasi. At the end of the day, ang tingin ko lang, as far as Trump will stand kung anong gusto niyang mangyari at i-fulfill niya yung campaign promises niya sa kanyang mga constituents sa Amerika at sa mundo na naniniwala sa kanya na he would be a different president than the other presidents like Biden and he will be an advocate of peace in the world and something to that effect. I think yung mga nakikita natin na as far as I'm concerned masaya ako like i-defund mo ang NED, that's a very good development. I-disband mo ang NED, yung front ng CIA, that's really good for the whole world, especially for the Philippines. So, itong mga ganitong development, I hope it continues. Kasi it would really facilitate as well a different image of yung image kasi ng United States hindi maganda sa mundo. Pero kapag may mga ganitong move si Trump, maibabalik yung magandang tingin sa Amerika na it's not a country that, just wants to control everyone, wants to send CIAs everywhere and get ganito kasi ang tingin ng mundo sa Amerika right now. So if Trump would want to continue this kind of positive development, I think magbabago din yung image ng United States na medyo magiging positive. However, I can still see that the United States wants to preserve its hegemony. That one is obvious.
Yeah.
But I understand also why. Because Trump also wants to make it sure that America will be respected and America will be great again. So that one I understand coming from a national security and national interest perspective of the United States, him being the president. Kasi lahat naman ng presidente dapat sa kahit anong bansa, ang kailangan mong i-uphold at lagi mong pangatawanan is kung ano ang nakakabuti sa bansa mo at ano yung national interest ng bansa mo. That's very understandable. Any president who has the right mind and who really have the interest of his or her country at heart or by heart, ang uunahin mo talaga is interest ng bansa mo at ano ang nakakabuti sa bansa mo. So very understandable yan. If in any case, Trump wants to have this mantra of America first and, America to be great, that he wants America to be great again. Parang ganon. Ako, from a national interest perspective, I understand that. Lahat naman kahit naman si Putin, ganon, even President Xi is ganon as far as China is concerned. So that's very understandable. But how Trump will operate that it would be good for the world is something that we need to observe and we need also to see and monitor along the way. Kasi bago pa siya sa kanyang posisyon eh. So we'll see. But I think may mga positive development na nangyayari na ako medyo gusto ko. Pero mayroon din siyang mga policy na medyo tulad ng Gaza, yung policy niya sa Gaza, medyo medyo hindi ako masyadong sold out, pero I don't make judgment because tinitignan ko ano ba talaga ang balak niya. Alam mo yon? Or maybe he's just testing the waters. Tinitest lang niya yung mga countries in the Middle East like Egypt, like Saudi Arabia, and all of this, kung ano ang kanilang posisyon. So, medyo I reserve my judgment on these issues.
Yes,
Because it's too early.
Yes, Prof, maiba lang ako. Partner, may kirigdagan ko. Maiba lang. Prof, ano naman masabi ninyo sa bago lang na naging pahayag ng ating Pangulo patungkol sa ito naman, dali nating issue dito sa ating bansa. Yung nabanggit ng ating... Yes, ni President Bongbong Marcos na nagtataka nga ako, parang yung mga iba na naging kandidato nag-deliver lang yata ng suka. Yan.
Bumibili ng suka.
Bumibili ng suka. Nabigyan ng certificate ng candidacy. Yun yung isa sa kung saan maraming umalmang Pilipino na tila ipinapakita ang ni BBM na hindi niya ka-level ang iilang mga Pilipino dahil meron tayong mga kababayan na nasa laylayan kung saan umalma rin ang iilan sa ating mga kaibigan sa political arena kung saan sinasabi nila na yan ang problema pag hindi mo nauunawaan ang buhay sa laylayan. Anong masasabi niyo po dito, Prof?
Una, ang masasabi ko dyan, sino bang gumawa ng speech niya ni President Marcos Jr.? Kung sino mang gumawa ng speech niya, i-fire niya. To be very frank, bakit President Marcos Jr.? Precisely because pinagmukha kang elitista at pinagmukha kang elitistang presidente na nasa taas, nasa ivory tower at malayong-malayo ka sa mga normal at regular na Pilipino. Kasi ang pagbili ng suka sa tindahan, to be straightforward about this, is lahat ng Pilipino, kahit nga ako na nasa middle class, nagbibili ng suka sa tindahan, kahit maliit na tindahan, kapag nawawalan ka ng suka. It's a representation of regular Filipinos na yun ang ginagawa. Now, yung kanyang ginawang framing na yung kabilang partido or yung ibang kandidato na hindi nasa kanyang slate ay parang bumili lang ng suka is a very demeaning. Very demeaning yan sa mga kumakandidato na hindi nasa slate nila at demeaning siya with reference to regular Filipinos who are not elite. And there's only 1% of our population are on top na elite talaga na hindi bumibili ng suka sa tindahan dahil may maroon silang mga butlers or may mga yaya sila na bumibili at hindi sila bumibili sa maliliit na tindahan at bumibili sila sa mga social na grocery. Yun yung yun yung optics dyan kung i-analyze mo at i-content analyze mo, content analysis ang gagawin mo sa statement ni President Marcos Jr. So, parang sinabi mo na, were the elites sila, mga mababang tao at mababang klaseng tao, Ganun naman talaga ang ano nun eh, ang implication yon. Sinasabi niya, kami magagaling, kami elitista, kami ang mga the best. Sila, wala yan. Kasi bumibili, mga parang bumibili lang na ng suka yan sa tindahan. So parang dinimin mo. Hindi niya naintindihan na the base of the Philippines is a masa. At lahat ng tao may ganong klaseng ginagawa every day. Bumibili ng suka, bumibili ng kung ano-ano sa tindahan. So, I don't understand why yun yung hindi ko maintindihan sa proclamation rally na yan eh. Bakit ganyan ang mga lumabas sa bibig ng presidente? Una, yung South China Sea. Ang optics is, we are anti-China, they are pro-China. Which is wrong. Which is a very unbecoming of a president for me as far as I'm concerned, because that is a very sensitive issue. The South China Sea, you don't play with it and you don't manipulate the issue just for the sake na mayroong kang mga kandidato na pinopromote, kasi pwede mo namang gawing iba yun eh. Pwede mong gawan ng paraan na ma-promote mo pa rin sila not in the sense. Ngayon, there's also a distinction. Kami ang hindi bumibili ng suka sa tindahan. So, we are elite, we're good and all that. Sila, parang bumili lang ng suka, sila ay mababang uri sa amin. At wala silang class, wala silang K. Which is also not true. Kasi kung titignan mo rin yung ibang mga kumakandidato, they also have their credentials, they also have their track record, they're very intelligent people. Well, many of them, I would not say all, but I would presume, mga tulad ni Kong Marcoleta, very smart and intelligent people. They have their, track record. So why would you possibly coin them as parang bumili lang ng suka? Diba? Parang ganon. Bakit? Si Pastor Kibuliban, kumakandidato, parang bumili lang ng suka? Parang, my God! Yeah, maybe hindi siya ganun kayaman tulad ni Bongbong Marcos or ng mga senador na mga whoever na sumatakbo sa kanyang slate, but that doesn't mean na wala siyang dignidad or mababang uri siyang tao. Diba? Ganun ang distinction, ang optics eh. Kung i-content analyze mo siya. Pero so sa akin parang turn off ako na ganun ang kanyang, parang nakaka-turn off eh. Kasi pwede mo namang gawan ng ibang optics yan eh. Pero ganyan ang kanyang nasabi doon sa kanilang proclamation rally na parang, Diyos ko Lord.
Yes, Prof.
Mr. President, i-fire mo kaya kung sinong gumawa ng speech mo. Kung may gumawa ng speech mo, malay ko ba kung sa'yo galing yan, diba?
Yes, Prof. Ano kaya yung implikasyon nito sa slate ni BBM?
Well, kung ang mga Pilipino nag-iisip at context analyze nila yung mga sinabi doon sa proclamation rally ng partido ni BBM at i-contrast niya doon sa halimbawa yung PDP Laban, kasi ang PDP Laban alam ko ngayong araw na to nagkaroon ng proclamation rally, nandun kayo ng mga senador. Anong mga sinabi doon? Make a contrast, make an analysis. Tignan niyo kung sino ang mga kandidato na tingin niyo would represent the Filipino people really and would never demean the Filipino people. Probably you can have an idea kung sino iboboto nyo. Kasi ganun yan eh. Hindi dapat maging yung election kasi ngayon, dapat maging election to na ang mga Pilipino ginagamit ang utak para tignan kung sino ang iboboto nila at sino ang hindi. At ginagamit din ang utak dapat ng mga Pilipino tignan kung paano dinadala ang diskurso ng mga importanteng issue na kinaharap ng bayan at hindi lamang nagre-rely sa mga sound bites or optics na minsan nakaka-off. So ito yun eh. Ito yung dapat yun. So tignan nyo kung anong sinasabi ng mga, halimbawa nasa PDP, at tignan nyo rin kung anong sinasabi ng mga kandidato at ni BBM na nasa kabilang side. Tapos, i-assess nyo, sino ba ang nag-i-educate talaga ng mga kandidato at sino lang ginagamit, sino sa kanila ang gumagamit lang ng mga sensitive and critical issue in a manipulative way just to get a vote. Kasi kung ganun ang proseso nila, they don't deserve our votes. We should have people who really think, who don't use manipulation just to get votes, but dapat tinataas ang level at antas ng diskurso, lalo na when you talk about critical and very important issues na kinaharap ng Pilipinas. Kasi ibig sabihin, kapag nalagay yan sa kanilang posisyon, at least may alam ang mga yan. Na kung wala, bakit nyo iboboto? Diba? Ganun lang kasimple yun. I hope the Filipino people at this time, my God, tawag nito, please lang, isipin nyo mong mabuti kung sino ang boboto nyo. Wag lang yung Porque nagsabi na sila pro-China kami, hindi. Iboboto nyo na yung slate ni BBM. No, it should not be like that. Try to be a little bit more educated about these things. Kasi sayang, kung nagsasuffer ang Pilipinas ngayon, kapag iboto nyo yung mga kandidato na walang kwenta at maplagay sa posisyon niya mga yan, definitely the Philippines will be worst off. Further worst off in the coming days. So ganun siya. After election, ganun siya.
Prof, damo nga salamat. Hangtod na sunod. Nahigayon dito pa rin sa SMNI Nightline niyo. Sa ulitin po, ingat po.
Ay, niya si Pastor Apoy, di ba?
Po.
Pwede ko bang ikampanya si Pastor na, hey, kababayan,